Good evening and a very warm welcome to all the viewers. Today we present to you our Simple Talks 8 of our eco-educational talk series, Simple Talks, called Sadharan Baatein. This talk will be in the form of an interview, and today we have with us Shruti Caprihan in conversation with Shailaja Rangarajan from Reimagined, a renowned environmentalist and with an activist on several environmental issues, and especially on waste management and waste recycling. I welcome you both on the talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Shruti Caprian, she actually started with her master's in geography from Delhi University, and she has a master's in regional planning from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. She's worked with National Institute of Urban Affairs in waste management before coming to Bangalore. Currently, she's an academician and a freelance designer. And she has been teaching textile design in distance education mode from Dialbagh Educational Institute, Dialbagh, Agra. In fact, she also is on, she has her own portal, which is www.behance.net, where I think she's doing a lot of product design and herself. And I think she's the perfect person to be in conversation with another very creative person, Shailaja Rangarajan. So over to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much, Neelam Didi. Welcome, Shailaja, to our sessions here. Very informative, very interesting, and people like you really are going to do a lot of value addition. So for our viewers, let me just give a brief introduction about Shailaja. Now, she comes from a family of academicians, and being good in maths and science, she followed the traditional route of engineering and MBA like most Indians. Then for 15 years, she traveled all over the world in the capacity of a supply chain business consultant. Now, the IT industry gave her a life of comfort and impromptu purchases that came along with affordable lifestyle choices. But Shailaja, being who she is and how she was brought up, she was never an impulsive buyer, and nothing that could be in conflict with her value systems, which was engraved into her since early childhood. Nonetheless, she classifies herself, or at that time, as a non-conscious consumer. Shailaja then got involved in solid waste management as a volunteer in her own apartment complex. And further, she delved into it and expanded into the area of Whitefield here in Bangalore. Eventually, she quit her corporate role to take waste management full-time. And I think she realized that the more she got into waste management, that the extent of havoc that was being caused by our consumption-driven lifestyle, that really got to her. And to encourage people, to consume without hurting the planet, this kind of became her goal. And with that, she dug into her childhood lessons of zero waste and brought upcycling to the forefront. And this upcycling now is born as Reimagined. So this is a very brief introduction. And Shailaja, we'd like to ask you, what is upcycling and how does it help the environment?
First of all, thanks, Shruti, for the very clear introduction. And very happy to be here and sharing the space with people like you and Neelamji. And first, when we talk about upcycling, very simply put, actually is part of our core Indian consumption pattern. Say, where we have had our dadis and nanis transform old saris into dohars. A broken bucket would actually become a gamla in the house, right? Something is broken, and it was very normal for us to see it being used in some other way other than its original purpose. So upcycling is nothing but repurposing the material to extend its lifetime, right? maybe as that particular product, it would have reached its end of life, but the material still has a lot of life left in it. So, and it would always find use in our consumption in some way or the other. So upcycling is mainly that, where we are talking about picking up something that has reached its end of life and nowadays where it gets discarded and termed as waste, and we find a new purpose to that material and bring it back into consumption. And that's what a circular economy, where we are looping the material as much as we can so that it does not get just simply dumped or burned. So upcycling, in other words, is repurposing the material that is usually discarded. That would be the simplest definition, which we all Indians can relate to.
Correct. And how does it actually help the environment? Because people say, fine, I'll upcycle, but what is it going to, I do my bit, but really does it help the environment? So in what, how does it help the environment?
So I believe in something called imperfect sustainability. Okay, the reason, if everybody talks about the problem about waste, the crisis and all, but like, oh, but what can I do about it? It's such a big problem. I just look at that landfill and it puts me off, but I know I can't do much about it. It's the government's responsibility, right?
Correct.
But eventually, if you notice, where is that waste coming from? From me, from you, from all of us, because we as citizens, we are discarding the waste and we believe in responsible routing of waste. But eventually it is getting dumped somewhere, right?
Right.
So upcycling has dual benefits. One, we are stopping the material from getting dumped or burnt in a landfill. So we are actually making products, making that as a primary input material.
Correct.
And at the same time, since we are working with discarded material as primary input, we are also minimizing the usage of virgin resources. Say, for instance, if I can tell you that, okay, why not repurpose the maybe a decor piece, a glass bottle that is dumped, right? I repurpose that into a decor piece.
Yes.
So that way we are avoiding a glass bottle from getting dumped, which we all know does not get disintegrated or recycled.
True.
At the same time, we have avoided bringing into consumption a new resource that would anyway get consumed otherwise, right? So this is the twin benefits of upcycling. One, we are avoiding the dumping. At the same time, at the sourcing level, we are minimizing the usage of or over exploitation of virgin resources. So as individuals, if we start making those simple choices in a day-to-day lifestyle, this is not at all rocket science. From the time you get up to the time you hit the bed, just pause and think, what are all the products that we are consuming, right? The furniture in the house, the furnishings in the home, the decor pieces, the clothing we wear, the shoes we buy, the bags we use, everything and anything, right? What if I tell you there's a high quality upcycled alternative to it? Yes. And all this is like with no compromise on quality or design aesthetics. So why not? So it's a very simple choice that an individual can make. And this concept of imperfect sustainability, when practiced over a lifetime, right? If we look back, we will realize the amount of positive impact an individual can make to the environment.
True. Okay, going forward, please tell us about Reimagine, your child, your baby, most important. And what made you switch an IT career to a social enterprise?
Okay, it's been 4.5 years now since I launched Reimagine. And I can't say that, oh, I knew what I wanted to do. No, I knew what I didn't want to do. That was my corporate role. So the day I realized getting out of bed and going to work seemed a burden to me, I did realize my heart is not in it. I quit.
Yes.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So for me, rule of elimination has worked beautifully in my life. And even here, when it came to my job, it worked for me. So I quit my corporate role. And by the time I was already doing my voluntary work over the weekends for waste management. Like we set up the in-house waste segregation, in-house composting and all. And then over the weekends, I would go to other apartment complexes, trying to help them handle their waste, set up the right processes, train the people there and all. And after I quit my corporate job, it only seemed natural that I do it every day. So all 7 days of the week I was doing that. And I also I was collaborating with BBMP, the local municipality here, where it would be like, okay, not at just the apartment level, working with the BBMP auto guys, like to the point I knew everyone by their name. There are times I've just sat in their auto and like, chalo, because my legs were aching with the 4 or 5 hours of walking on the road, doing the door-to-door campaigning and all. So sitting in the BBMP office, waiting for a signature so that we can get a land surveyed and dry waste collection center can come up here. So that became my full-time role. This was all voluntary because we as citizens felt we need to do something about the waste ourselves. And but then when I was getting more and more involved and I was actually visiting the landfills, walking through garbage, I paused to think, okay, how come we are actually having this crisis now? Why didn't we have these kind of issues earlier? The answer was obvious, right? The lifestyle has changed over the last decade or so, since we got exposure to different lifestyle concepts. And when I just look back at my childhood, there was no person coming home to pick up waste. The reason was simple. There was never any waste generated. There was typical Indian middle class families never generated any waste. Right. And I said, okay, as long as we are generating this volume of waste and so-called segregation also, but are we really addressing the core problem here? The answer was very obvious, saying no. The problem is actually even a step before this. We should not even be generating this volume of waste. And that also got me thinking, look, I started looking at waste when people would actually dump such stuff and like, oh my God, this is dumped in the garbage. It seems so beautiful. It's broken, it's chipped. But suddenly I started looking at things differently.
Yes.
And for me, it was just a matter of connecting the dots. Okay, then I actually, 1 or 2 pieces I pulled out from garbage. I said, okay, can't this be repurposed? Now, that is what is upcycling. Upcycling is a cool Western face to the simple concept of repurposing that we Indians are used for. And I said, okay, the problem is not with waste handling. The problem is with the waste generation. So we'll need to really revisit our priorities and say, should things even be dumped the way we are dumping? Ideally, I would tell people, please don't consume. Now, who's going to even listen to that, right? It's not practical. So that's when I thought, you know what, rather than telling people not to consume, is there an alternative that I can provide where they can consume without hurting the planet? And that's how Reimagine was born exactly 4.5 years ago.
Okay, lovely. What do you think, how is the market for upcycled products? So I think because for it to become a successful enterprise, you need to get into the market space and you already have that exposure in your job. So what is the market, and is there a bias towards these upcycled products? So
there surely is a bias against upcycled products, not towards. The reason being, unfortunately in India, like when we talk about waste, we can only visualize landfills and garbage dumps because that is how waste is handled today, right? So the moment I tell people, you know what, this is created from scrap fabric, or this is created from discarded wood scrap, the perception, the immediate visualization is not very appealing to people, right? But yes, there is awareness being created, and the moment somebody looks at the products we make, nobody knows it's made from waste. Then I usually ask them to guess, take a guess what this is made out of.
Correct.
And then they say this, that. I said, this is actually from discarded denim. This is actually from discarded wood scrap. This is actually from dumped clothes, or this is from the manufacturing excess and all that. And that's when their mind starts opening up to the idea of upcycling. Oh, okay. So I have noticed that seeing is believing when it comes to upcycled products. Though we do sell online, but most of our customers are through personal connects, and when we participate in events where the touch and feel of the product becomes the primary driver for people to start accepting and even looking at upcycled products as their first choice. But yeah, once they start doing that, we have seen that they continue doing it, which is a good sign.
Yes.
But there is always the first hurdle to cross, which is awareness creation, changing the consumer behavior. It's a slow process, but it will eventually happen.
Yeah, I think that now people are becoming more aware, and I feel in most public places people are generally excited about this upcycle stuff, because
Right.
again it brings a newness to, again, consumers want variety, and suddenly they'll see this, oh, we've never seen this before, it's not.
Right.
So I think it is very intriguing. So according to you, what do you think is the size of the market globally or in India for upcycled products? Is it futuristic? What do you think?
Yes, right now I would say there's no market as such. We are creating the market. Every time we create a product, we have to start with creating a market for it.
Okay.
So if you ask me, like in a rupee value, what would be the size of the market? It's really difficult. Because for me, every off-the-shelf product is my competition, right?
Yeah.
So I can take up the entire market that way, right? So even if we start making a dent and say even 10% or 15% of this market share is now taken over by upcycled products, we'll be making a huge difference to the environment and consumption lifestyle. And also I see that the acceptability of the concept and such designs and products, it's easier in certain Nordic countries, probably in certain parts of Europe. India still is lagging behind in terms of, and that too, the talks of upcycled products and all, we can talk about it only in certain cities in the country.
Yes, it's
so the penetration level also is pretty low, which is what we are also working on as we create the concept. So this is like a marathon run, so it's going to take a lot of time.
No, true. Yes. The special part about your organization, that it's a social enterprise working for women's welfare. Now, can you tell us about that? Because that is very intriguing and
so when I started Reimagine, the sole focus was upcycling. I never started it with the angle of creating livelihoods, right? Because the purpose itself of Reimagine was focusing on waste rerouting. And so the first 1.5 years or so, I operated just as a marketplace because I don't have any idea or design background. I don't know what goes into setting up a production unit. I had no clue about sourcing waste material and all, and I had no idea how people will even react to this concept, right? And I don't have any business background. Since it was my personal savings that I was putting in, I said, okay, let's take it step by step. So first 1.5 years, Reimagined operated just as a marketplace where we were just another platform where we would list products made by other people, mostly individuals who were doing it at a hobby level, not as a big enterprise or full-fledged production. So most of it was all decoration and gift items kind of pieces, right? And taking them to the consumers. And that gave me an idea what kind of, what level of awareness creation is needed, and how people perceive upcycled products, and the finickiness about quality that will be needed in this space, right? With no compromise on the quality and finish. Yes. Because I, as a consumer, however eco-conscious I might be, I wouldn't want to compromise on that. I might pick up one product just for the feel-good factor, but will I go back and pick up the next one? Yes. Obviously, no, I won't. So when I won't do it, how can I expect the other consumers to look at it? So that's when I realized after 1.5 years, okay, it's time to actually start the in-house production where there is complete control over production, complete control over material sourcing, over quality of the products, etc. And it was a coincidence that my very good friend from Kolkata, she's an artist. Yes. And she reached out to me. She teaches in a school which is run for free for children from the underprivileged strata. So the children would come in the morning. They're all special kids again. Okay. The children would come and all the mothers would sit outside the school for those 4-5 hours where the kids are inside. They can't even afford the transport to and fro. So they would just sit outside. Wait. Yeah. And then she called me up to say, Shaila, is there something we can do for these women? I know you're doing something. I have no clue what you're up to, but I just thought I'll check with you. And it was for me connecting the dots. I need a team. There is a team out there. And they came with 0 skill sets. So that's how I said, okay, anyway, I'm thinking of making products. Why not even address this area of sustainable employment, right? Usually women they are not trained in a specific skill. They are treated as unskilled labor or workforce. And when I went and met these women, I was shocked because so many things in my life I've taken for granted, right? That's where the other angle of social impact started hitting me. Like, there is a bigger issue out there which I've not been even aware of, right? Maybe aware of, not really exposed to. That's when the second foundation principle of pillar of Reimagine came on to be sustainable and dignified earning means. Yes. I decided then and there saying, okay, we are making these products and we will do it this way, where the people who make these products also will benefit substantially by becoming part of Reimagined family. So that's when the journey started. And since then, there's been no looking back. And now we are on the scale up path.
That's perfect. You're raring to go. So what is your future roadmap?
It's very clear. One, Reimagine is going to be known as a global brand, and it's going to be a conglomerate of upcycled products. The focus is not going to waver. We are going to focus on that. And we will create an upcycled alternative for every single product a consumer might want in day-to-day consumption. And also, while we do this, we want to touch as many lives as we can and make a difference to them and give them a dignified living alternative. And yes, so there is a natural scale-up plan which I know will fall in place.
That's the need of the hour for sure. In today's times, which is the COVID times, how has it impacted your business? Because that surely would have had some impact.
Oh yes, I can't deny that. It surely has hit us because people are not really into the buying mode. One way, I'm happy that consumption has come down.
Don't even consume this. Fine for a while.
No, that's a problem with me. Even at the events when we are having a stall and all, if somebody is getting confused, I would rather figure out what the requirement is and pick up one piece. You don't need to.
Yeah.
Because that's what my voice tells me. So I'm not a typical salesperson. I can't do that. So one way, I'm happy that the environment is healing, thanks to COVID. But on the business front, we have been hit, no doubt about it. Like, we have not had sales for 2 months. Slowly, there's a trickle.
Yes.
It is there, but it's still not big enough for us to sustain the team. And end of day, for my women, and they have become the main breadwinners of the family now, because most of the husbands are daily wage earners. They've all lost their jobs, right? So we made it a point to pay our women because the households have to run.
Yes.
There are children, there are livelihoods which are dependent on this income that the women are earning, right? So when we started off as per piece kind of effort, and we would translate that into monthly salary. Now they're all on fixed salaries. Work, no work, they will get paid. End of day, that's how I would want to be paid as well, right? As an employee in the corporate role as well. So how should it be any different for them?
Yes.
So the team has been getting paid. Yes, it has drained out our cash flow.
Yeah.
But I think it's like we need to bide our time. It will happen. Sure. But thankfully, we have had customers who have stood with us. Like, we got a bulk order from the US in the month of March.
Okay.
It got out of India yesterday.
Okay. Lovely.
So customers have waited.
Yes.
And we have had strong support team, like the marketing team, which handles the social media. They have faith in us. They said, till the business picks up, hold on to the payments. So that way, supportive partners in terms of both in customer end and in the back end who are helping us with digital media and all. We have had amazing partners who have stood by our side and say, you know what, we are in it with you. Let's tide over it together. So we are better placed, I think, thanks to the collaborations we have had.
Yeah. So do you think that, that the way we do business and the way we run our enterprises now is going to change? Like, it's not going to be the same, the pre-COVID times like it was.
Yes, very much.
Realize quite a few things and change the format.
I think businesses need to revisit their core principles of doing business. businesses need to be driven more by the values and ethics and not just the top line, bottom line funda.
Yes.
How do you quantify the livelihood impact an enterprise is having, right? I know, okay, the woman might be earning 10,000, but that 10,000 in a COVID situation is as much as earning 50,000, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So the value and ethics of a business needs to be revisited unless and until everybody is able to grow. The businesses can't survive. So I know that my team has stood by me, like women have worked and stretched themselves when it came to, when we have had tough timelines to meet. They have not questioned it, and the children have actually slept in the unit next to the moms,
Yes.
so the women can complete the work. That is the commitment. And they have stood by the business when the business has needed them, and it is our responsibility to take care of them as well. So these are the core values, I think, that should be a common thread across all businesses. We are a for-profit enterprise, but it is for a reason. It's not to become millionaires, right?
Yes.
For-profit is to become self-sustainable.
Yes.
So what is the reason for profit is that I'm not aiming to become the next millionaire or the richest woman in the country or the world. I really don't want that. If I really was chasing money, I should be sitting in a corporate job, not doing this.
Yeah.
So what is the reason? What is the business purpose that you are setting out to chase? So get back to the drawing board. And my very strong belief is an individual growth can never be sustained. An organization and the team should grow together. That is exactly when businesses will start making a positive impact. I don't believe in the NGO model as well, personally, because NGO model, you're always banking upon someone to bail you out, right?
Yes.
If the funds dry up, the NGO shut shop. It can't be that way. Be profitable. It is essential to be profitable, to have a business angle to it so that you can self-sustain. Had we not been a for-profit enterprise, we couldn't have tided over these last 3-4 months without any revenues coming in, right?
Yes.
That is where the for-profit angle is needed. So I think the 10-point formula should be revisited. Okay, what are the core things which my business will not compromise with, come what may?
Yes.
That would be what I firmly believe in every business should revisit, in fact.
True. I think if everybody plays their part, we can make a huge difference. What this COVID is teaching us.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So it's not only consumers; it's the people who make the stuff. It's everyone included.
True.
So,
Yeah.
just to wrap up, maybe from my side, what core message would you like to, or advice would you like to give to our viewers today in this COVID era? Because it is definitely going to bring a lot of changes. So what advice would
Just
you
be a suggestion. See, I'm no expert or I know it all person. For me, it has been a learning journey and I'm still continuing to learn. But what I would strongly urge everybody is, see, people have been forced to stay put indoors and people have really figured out what their essential services are, right? Earlier, it would be like, oh, if I can't go and buy online this 2 kurtas this month, I feel depressed. Oh, I so love this particular thing from which is there on display. Let me go pick it up just because I have a credit card to swipe. Now, all of us have been forced to stay put indoors and all this have been knocked off, right?
Yes.
Earlier, the thought was, how can I be without this? Now you have seen it. Each one of us can be without it.
Yeah.
So you're forced to do it, right? So why don't you at least retain 80% of it? I'm not saying go back to 100%. 100% again would be like asking for the ideal thing. But at least retain some part of it, that when we are stepping out, let's not again go back to our consumeristic way of living.
Yes.
Let's become conscious of wants and needs. There's nothing wrong in going out and having a cup of coffee. No problem. Please do it. It's needed. That socializing will help. No problem. But yeah, avoid the paper cup probably. Yeah. So these are small choices. Do you really need to splurge the way you do? Just pause and think and be truthful. We need to be brutally honest with ourselves, saying, oh, I cannot live without this. That's not the truth. We all know it. So let's just take a step back and pause. It's very much doable, and each one of us. And I'll bring out my imperfect sustainability. Don't aim for idealistic living. We will get nowhere.
Yes.
Just figure out the small things in your daily lifestyle that you can keep on replicating. Replication and consistency is critical to making an impact. Pick up something that you know you can follow every single day of your life. Job done. So each one of us can just pick that as our battle and focus on it. We are good. That's all it takes.
Perfect advice. I think this reminds me of Gandhi's quote that there's enough in this world for everybody's need, but not greed. And I think we need to stop being greedy now.
So very true.
Yes.
So
So
very true.
just the basic, what you need, get that. And that too, you can be creative, you can upcycle, you can recycle. Thank you so much. Would anybody like Neelamdi, would you like to ask a few questions? I think we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Neelamdi is on mute.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, it was a really engrossing talk to hear too. I mean, and
Thank you so much.
really, and I think your last bit advice that you told about non-consumeristic behavior, I think that's where the synergy with us, when we say simple living, actually came into, and that's how I think it's a very good connect and synergy. I have just some 2-3 small, doubts that I had, and I just wanted to put it across. One is that, we see this whole amount of waste. And from there, it is for a common man, it's very difficult for us to imagine how do you actually shift to those products that you make. So could you tell us 2 things? One is that what are the kind of materials do actually you pick up? And what is a typical journey of that material from there to your final product?
Sure. So we work with different types of materials. And any waste, the problem is it starts looking the way it does after it gets dumped in the landfill. If you actually pull it before it gets into the waste category, the material actually does not look that bad. So we work with both pre and post consumer waste. So when we say pre-consumer waste, where that material has not been consumed by the end consumer, like we get lots of fabric excess from manufacturers, and we source the wood scrap from people who make big furnitures, the machine-made manufacturing units, and we get these are the primary pre-consumer waste. Yeah, we get a lot of woolen yarn from production factories of the carpet factories as well. And when we talk about post-consumer waste, we do get a lot of clothing, bed sheets, curtains, and shoes, bags, bottles, broken decor pieces, anything and everything that we usually would throw in our daily consumption lifestyle, right? The problem is the moment it gets clubbed with all waste and gets dumped, that's when we start looking at it as a garbage or landfills. Now, before I discard it, if I just route it directly to Reimagine, it comes to me as individual pieces. So it actually does not look as bad. Yeah, maybe the clothing might not be that neat or clean, but that is still manageable for us. So we source the waste through different points. And from there, we work backwards to see what is the property, what is the life left in it, what is the environmental impact. Because even when we design a product, we need to think, can I make this into a handbag? Does it come into contact with the skin? Is it harmful to the skin if it does? So all those physical and chemical properties of the material also need to be considered. So that is how we source different types of material that becomes a primary input for us.
Okay. So next, after that you just put it into the production.
So after that, what happens is, again, depending on the type of waste, we go through the cleaning process. Say when we get the fabric waste directly from the factories, right? They are clean because that's new fabric, but discarded fabric. And when we are talking of wood scrap, that is, again, there's no treatment needed unless and until the quality of wood is very bad, right? But when we talk of post-consumer waste, where we get the bed sheets and bed covers or the saris and all, it goes through a cleaning cycle. And because it's essential that the sanitization process is very perfect, because end of day, anybody who is using the product also should feel comfortable, and it's only essential that we go through that, because we really don't know the journey of that particular material. So we ensure that the sanitization process is thorough before it gets into production.
Okay. So you have a unit in Bangalore, or you have a unit in?
No, we have one unit in Kolkata where denim and fabric is primarily the material. Again, the units are classified depending on the material they work with, not the products they make, because they need to gain expertise in working with the material.
Yeah.
So the Kolkata unit works with denim and fabric waste and makes furnishings like quilts, patchwork, bed covers, and we make a lot of products from fabric rope, like the stools and the modas and all that. We make the gift boxes from the fabric ropes. So they specialize in that material. In Orissa and Titiya village in Balasore district, that is a team that specializes in tire tube waste, where we work with the truck and tractor tire tubes, the inside tubes, which usually get burnt. So we work, that is a post-consumer waste. So we work with tire tube, which is rubber waste primarily in Odisha. And Kolhapur is one unit where we are working with wood scrap. Now this is again an experiment that we tried, and it has, again, after 4 months of iteration and figuring out, because this was a new concept that we wanted to test, where we actually join small pieces of wood, and there's actually teak wood. I actually got 3 carpenters to go and check whether that is really teak wood waste. Because my perception was, why would somebody throw away teak wood? But apparently they do. So we actually bought 4 tons of teak wood scrap just for sampling, not even production. It was just for sampling. And now we have gone into the production mode, where we'll be launching our products in this month, in August rather. Yeah. So that is the wood scrap. For glass and all, I collaborate locally with individuals, because glass usually ends up being a decor piece. And I have not really set up a full-fledged production unit there. Apparel, again, we are planning for one production unit in Bangalore, but that will take some time. Till then, it is through, we have outsourced it to certain tailor partners who are doing it for us. And we have our sourcing partners who give us their fabric waste for us to work with. This apart, we have collaborated with the handloom weavers in West Bengal, who have helped us work with cotton yarn waste. So we have a sari range coming out of West Bengal. And just last week, we got the first set of jamdani fabric waste. So with muslin yarn, so we are launching that, stoles and dupattas. So that is again in the apparel section. So we look at collaborations like that.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that's what, because when you look at landfill and when you look at your products, it's like, what is the journey? And I was curious about that. Yeah.
That's exactly what we need to ensure. It should not hit the landfill.
Yeah.
Pull it back before that, and then the transformation can happen.
Yeah.
So that's a ton of resource so it's just resource for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing was, you talked about the markets actually,
Yes.
that the market size in India at the moment for these products are not much, and it's only in the cities. Do you think it also could be because this throwing waste and the waste, the behavior of, lot of plastic and lot of other things and throwing clothes is more in the cities rather than in smaller towns and villages, where there might be people still, using or recycling? Do you think that is a reason for this not penetrating the market in tier 2, tier 3 cities or villages or other places?
Yes, I would say yes and no, because yes, the consumption level in urban India is way higher compared to the smaller towns. No doubt about it. At the same time, the thing is, at least what I've seen is, everybody needs to go through the cycle of aspirational lifestyle before they start realizing the truth.
Correct.
So if I go and try preaching this in smaller towns, right, it will not strike any chord with them.
Yeah, that's right.
Smaller towns are flooded with plastic, because I get to travel into all these interiors, right? And I feel so sad that pristine places are getting killed and ruined just by the consumption patterns that are, and unfortunately the TV and the media have contributed it. Everybody wants to look at, oh, that is the latest thing which is there in that TV serial, so I want to have that. And that is there across all the smaller towns of India. So I wouldn't say consumption is any low, but still compared to urban India, yes. So yes, it does make a difference. So, and for me to go and tell somebody who cannot really afford this luxurious products, you look at this alternative, it does not make sense. There, at least they do buy a plastic cover and they reuse it and reuse it and reuse it till it gets like totally torn. Whereas for us, everything is use and throw, right? The convenience level is higher.
Yeah.
So that way the target, I would say primarily, yes, we are limiting it to the urban India right now. And slowly we will be penetrating because it has to be done. It is very much needed. So it's a slow process.
Okay, I think this is the last question.
Yep.
You have told us and you have been telling since our last discussion that you are not a designer and you don't have a creative mind. But your products tell otherwise. So what is the secret of your product being highly stylish and the finish? There has to be some connection, right? So what is the secret?
Designs. No, I can't. So Debapriya, who handles the Kolkata operations, she's an artist and she has a beautiful aesthetic sense. Okay. So for me, well, I do push colors and all because I like everything subtle, more muted and all. She being an artist loves certain colors. But it's my understanding of what, when I talk of the apparel range, I haven't designed any of the apparels. I have, now it's not like a full-time, but yeah, I have a designer who has been working with me on this. And the thing is, it's very essential that the core philosophy matches. Yes. So it is her idea. For me, like, is there a way that we can work with Jamdani weavers? My point stops there. That translating into designs is not my forte at all. I say, okay, I want to work and create this colorful fabric rope stools. My thought ends there. Now translating that into product is Debo's skill, Debopriya, who heads the Kolkata unit. Okay. Now I look at it and say, you know what, maybe we should do this. From an aesthetic sense, I add my viewpoints, but I can't take credit for what you see out there. I say, I want to create a denim bags range which are classy and cool. Okay, not this, let's do some different patchwork kind of a thing. Kaisa patchwork? Why not this? Why not that? I have this 30,000 feet ideas. Translating that into actual products is not something I do. I do the nitpicking after they create the products. That's my forte. So the design credit has to go to the team. And the women who make these products, oh my God, they have transformed. So they come and tell me, Shailadi, shall we try this? Isko aise karte hain. So they have that creative element in them. So it's all they're doing. I can't take credit for that.
Okay, so one more, related to this, one more question. I keep on going. The finish actually, because I have been working with craftsmen in the bamboo sector,
right?
Trying to upgrade them. Like suppose I shouldn't say, I don't want to use that word in a sense where they do not know. They do know, but the people who come across to us and generally the craftsmen, the finish of the products is not so much. So to make them understand that if you want your product, which is 50 rupees in that market and you want to get 300 rupees for that, you have to, out of 10, from 2, you have to reach up to 7 or 8.
Right.
And that has been a rigorous process, which I have been doing. Yes. And we still feel we keep on being lagging behind. Like I do a lot of, my products are pretty big. It's a building, suppose it's a building, right. So the scale is very high, but people do look for very fine, workmanship in that. So even people who are with me for 11 years are not able to really give, and I really have to keep striving for that. So you also work with, people in all these sectors. So that's why I'm wondering, the finish of your products is really good. So how do you achieve that actually?
So what I would say is I can relate to every word you just said, Nidhi. because it has been no different for me. And what has happened is, yes, what has helped the team is I initially started off with in-house training and all, but there's something always missing. It's like that wow element wasn't just coming. And where I realized an external trainer coming in to train them on the intricacies of finish and all has made the switch possible. So where some external expert is who specializes in that material, right? And then they nailed it. Because for 6-7 months, I was rejecting every product the team made. I said, no, to the point they were very, very frustrated. Saying, yes, they learned the tailoring skills and all. Yes. Okay, how to actually patch the fabric together, stitch it and all. But somehow, as you said, right, it's not up to the mark. It's good, but it's not, something is still missing. Then I roped in an external designer who sat with the women and said, you know what, just the difference of placing the patchwork and stretching the fabric before you stitch will give the finish, the small, small details. And yes, I invested in that and that got the results. It was worth it. So maybe that's where the external objective eye might help, who understands the material and who's like, you know what, I can make out what is missing. Let's fix this. And that made all the difference. That's also a reason why for the Odisha unit, I started off with a professional trainer, sitting there with the team, going through the training iterations of session 1, session 2, before we actually started producing products. So the Kolkata training taught me what is needed, which I implemented in the Odisha team. So that has been a learning for me. So the external professional trainer help makes a lot of difference.
Okay, that's great. I think a lot to learn, a lot to learn from you. And I think
I'm still learning, please. I'm no expert. I'm still learning on the job.
Deriving a lot of satisfaction too. That's
the learning session with Shruti and Shailaja, and this particular session we have named as Upcycling Your Lifestyle. So all the viewers, we hope that after this session and after what we have tried to bring to you, we will all start really upcycling our lifestyle from the morning till the evening. And I think that's what will help us tide over the crisis and the economic crisis, the employment crisis, all these crises that COVID-19 has brought us. And we feel very, that we are closeted in our houses, but I think we are living, we are surviving, and we are surviving with simple things, which Shailaja Rangarajan, as she says, that we should make it a habit of it, even after COVID actually goes away, and for all time to come. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shailaja.
Thank you so much.
Shruti.
Thank you so much.
Lovely talking to you all. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you.
Thank you.